I just think that there's been a history of police brutality against youth, especially youth of color. You've kind of seen it from the 60s with the Black Panthers was kind of the reason why they started. And then when my mom immigrated to the States in the 90s, there was the issue with Rodney King and the LA riots, and then you have police brutality today. So I just think there's just been an ongoing history of just police not respecting people, and then people in retaliation, trying to go against the police. And so there's just never been a good relationship between the two.
There's a big trust gap between young people and law enforcement. I believe because a lot of young people don't really interact with police officers or anyone in the justice system until a problem comes up. And it's often young people find it intimidating to even speak to someone who's a police officer or with the justice system, because they're afraid that it's association with a problem. People don't have open conversations with police officers.
I think the distrust between police officers and the minority, especially young minority community, is because we're connected and we're seeing what goes down. Me personally, I've never been the victim of police brutality or even a cop coming and, just harassing me. But when I see that on social media, when I see that on the news, it's kind of self-defense is preemptive for the most part.
So I think that there are a lot of people who become police officers and end up abusing that power, and that there are definitely a lot of people who become police officers because they're sort of power hungry. And I mean, I've definitely seen that firsthand. It's not pretty. And so I think that that's an issue, and that there has to be a better process of looking at people and saying, yeah, you can handle this power really well and deal with this really well, and that that's just something that we haven't been really good at.
Well, here on campus, I try to interact with, the students when I get the opportunity. I also take classes here, and I explain to them that I'm a police officer, and if they have any questions, I'm available. I try to make myself available.
Yeah, I definitely think that most of the times I've never really talked to a cop for anything other than directions. Like, I got in a car accident with my mom once, and when the policewoman showed up, she had a little attitude because instead of trying to help us out in the accident, she told us to move to the accident lane with an attitude. I was like, thanks. But my dad has worked in law enforcement, but he worked in another country where my family is from, and I think it's totally different from the way that they do law enforcement everywhere. And so it's just different. Nobody really takes the time to have conversations with cops, and cops don't really take the time to come on college campuses and have those conversations with students.
I think it's obvious that there's a gap of trust between young people and law enforcement. And, I attribute that to the fact that we failed as a country on a national level and state to state. We failed to humanize police officers. And the majority of the time, interactions between young people and police officers are out of necessity and not just casual conversation. Until the government really becomes active and tries to fill the gap and bring a more human quality to police officers, we're going to continue to see this level of distrust.
I'm not going to wait until they come attack me for me to build up walls and try and distance myself from law enforcement. If I see something happen to my brother, I'm going to try and make sure that doesn't happen to me.
Is a huge problem for police officers because there's a lack of understanding about what they go through every day. But I think that it's one that we don't really talk about, so if an officer preemptively shoots a young kid, and he shouldn't have, we look at that and we say, oh, he shouldn't have done that, but we don't stop and go, well, how many times has he been shot at? How many times has he put his life in danger, and what has that done to him that led him to do what he did in this situation?
Yeah, and moving forward, if we want to see trust, we're going to have to bring back initiatives and programs like that, so the police officers can interact with the public, especially young people.
There's the stigma where young people associate police officers with, a problem or emergencies only, and we need to fix that in order to build trust between young people and police officers.
So I think that those are all problems that kind of add an extreme tension between police officers and the public, and that when you come across a police officer, you don't really know who you're running into.
The conversation starts now.
The conversation starts now.
It starts right now.